remind her tonight, even right now, remind her. Before she was born, you knew what would happen throughout her life. And that even as she shares her life tonight, among other things, she would remember clearly, deeply, that it was your love and your attention that brought her out of where she was. And that you would not just bring her out, but use her to bring others out. And to call the rest of us to help bring people out. Give her confidence all the more. Especially as we just keep hearing about the attack on her message and her life. It's amazing. Those that would assassinate her character, shame on them. Her message, her experience, it commands a compassionate response and an urgent response. So we thank you for bringing her here tonight and for all the places you have been bringing her and will bring her. Isn't that right, family? So bless her tonight. Bless her once again, her message. And we're going to ask you again, bless the United States.
Yes.
We thank you for Donald Trump.
Oh, amen.
Thank you for putting him in the office. Thank you that he is, right now, to date, appears to be the president who has done more to protect religious freedom than any other president. And life, protect life. And we thank you for his dedication to the Constitution. That you inspired the Founding Fathers to write into the law as the law of our country. So we thank you for it. And what a blessing to be here. What a blessing for Annie and others who can get here. And these things we thank you and we pray in Jesus' name. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Ready? Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen? Amen. Amen. You always got to say amen after you say the Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, why don't we always say that? Just throw that in. Wherever you say it, just yell that at the end. Amen. Amen. All right? You got to do that. I want to tell you about a few upcoming events before Annie kind of speaks to us. And the first one is Sharam Hadian. Some of you received a little flyer on your way in. And Sharam Hadian, he also, like Annie, he was born in Iran. He was able with his family to get out of there right before the overthrow of the Shah of Iran. The Shah, if you know his story, remember what he was doing, it was really a westernized country at that time. And he wanted it to be more like America. But as things go, somebody else comes in, wants to overthrow that, replace what was there with a militant Islamic republic. And he was able to get out. He became a Christian here in the United States. He became a citizen. He became a pastor. Now he also travels and he warns, he educates people about the threat of Islam. It's very important. So he is coming. He is going to speak two places, the First Assembly of God, also here at Landmark. And the First Assembly of God, his message is going to be the Trojan horse of the interfaith dialogue. How many of you know what that is? Yeah. Okay, interfaith dialogue, it's a ruse. But it's something that Islam uses to make everybody open and think we're all on the same team. But that's a momentary thing. But you want to learn about that. Second thing is going to be right here at Landmark, and it's going to be hated for the cause of Christ. That's going to be his theme. And they're going to be held, the one here is going to be in the new building, if you saw that outside. It's just about ready to go, whichever direction I'm downstairs. It's up there somewhere. Tony's pointing that way. It's over there. Directionally challenged. But it's just fantastic. And a state-of-the-art AV system is being installed. It's really going to be a premier venue for many things, and to have guests like Annie and others who will be there. And the dates of that, you can go online to hatedforthecause of Christ. Eventbrite. Okay, Eventbrite.com. The second thing is that the Black Hills Women's Conference is going to also be here on October 20th. There's going to be hundreds of women from all over the area. Ladies, are you a female? If you're of this female species, come on, you want to be here. This is where you want to be. Welcome to AnnazAnni
y'all doing?
Good.
Good. Before I get started, I'm going to share some things very quickly with you. Bear with me today, as I shared this with Pastor Scott. I'm having a little bit of an inner battle, so if you can all just bear with me, I will try to get through this, and we said a prayer, and I will let God guide me through this speech. But if I start tripping all over my words, and if you don't understand what I'm saying, that means I switched to Farsi. So I'm going to start putting subtitle. You just follow the slides. But thanks for having me back. South Dakota has been very, very kind to me, so I'm glad to be back. And yes, we do have a problem of Islamization here in America. I hope by the time I go through my speech and the slideshow, you all understand what the danger is, and as Pastor Scott mentioned, get involved and take action, because this is a problem we can solve if we all start taking action. He brought up Shah of Iran, which I'm glad, because that's always where I start. I was born and raised in Islamic Republic of Iran. You might know it as Iran. And yes, I did. But before 1979, for those of you who may not know, Iran was not an Islamic country. Never was an Islamic country. And Iran has 2,700 years of history. That's a lot of history. So right before the revolution in 1979, country was ran by Shah of Iran, or King Pahlavi. And yes, he was back then known as the only ally of America in the Middle East. He was very serious about bringing Western culture to the country. We actually had American teachers at universities teaching not just culture but the language, and a lot of courses that were taught here in America. Women had equality, equal rights. They could be whatever they wanted to be. And they also actually had a specific program where woman or man could actually come to America and be educated. They didn't need a passport, they didn't need a visa. There was an actual program that Iranian students were accepted here every year to come and get educated, come back to the country and help the country and civilization of Iran. Anyhow, Iran before 1979 was known as mini America and Middle East. Pretty beautiful, isn't it? Anyways, in 1979, a group of Iranians decided to go ahead and start a revolution because they were tired of the luxurious life of Shah of Iran. The revolution started by just some people being angry with the king, but then in the middle of it, a man came along and hijacked the revolution with promises such as, if you let me take power, I give you free housing, free school. Does it sound familiar? Exactly. Actually, it kind of looks familiar too. Yes, Ayatollah Khomeini, a well-known Islamic leader who was exiled to France because he started some other revolutions in Iran. He came along and hijacked the revolution, and guess what? He took power. He took power, became the supreme leader, and the first thing he did was, when he landed in Iran from France, he gave a speech, very moving speech, for those who liked him. And the very first thing he said was, let the plan begin. We will take down the great Satan America and wipe Israel off the map. This was almost 40 years ago. The video is actually available on YouTube if you like to watch it yourself. Look up Ayatollah Khomeini, 1979, first speech. It will come up and you can watch it for yourself. Almost 40 years ago, this man said, they will take down the great Satan, America. Anyhow, the second thing he did was change the constitution of the country. Under Shah of Iran, we had the mirror image constitution of America, minus Second Amendment. So he got rid of that constitution and brought in an Islamic constitution, also known as Sharia. or you might know it as Sharia law. That is based on three things: Quran, word of Allah; Sunnah, life of Muhammad; and Hadith, the stories told by those who lived around Muhammad, telling how he dealt with situations. He brought that constitution. And with that, the very first thing that happened was a woman in Iran went from being westernized to being that. Hijab was mandatory. They had to wear the hijab, and they had to wear the black hijab. All of them, young, old, doesn't matter. And if they wouldn't obey, they would be arrested. As you can see in that picture, it's not just a regular arrest. This is pretty horrifying, just because you're wearing, well, I guess she's wearing a blue jean. And it gets worse when this man came to power. Khomeini died and Khomeini took power. The first speech he gave was, we're not going to rest by America or Israel. We are going to bring the day of peace. Meaning the day every breathing human is Mohammedan. That means Muslim. And he started taking power. And he started getting things worse and worse for women to where if you want to do anything as a woman, here are examples. You want to go to school. You want to buy land. You want to have a job. You want to start a business. You want to get married. You need a driver's license or a passport to leave the country. You will have to have your male guardian to authorize that for you. If not, you can't do it. If you do it, you broke the law and you committed adultery. So, if you go get a passport and exit the country without your father, grandfather, or husband authorization, you committed adultery. I was born after the revolution. So I was born into Islamic Republic of Iran. And on top of that, I was also born in a very religious family. My father was a sheikh, which is a step higher than imam, so he could make Islamic rulings, he could be a judge in a Sharia court. And my mother was a Quran teacher. Yay. Hey, at least she was a teacher. Anyways, I had, you could say, normal childhood until I reached the age of 7. That's me. First I was school. They put me in that hijab, and technically they told me I don't have to wear it until I'm 9 years old, but I'm going to start wearing it at school so I get used to it and I master it, so when I turn 9, I don't get myself in trouble for not knowing how to handle it. That day, my father took me to school, and I learned my very first Islamic lesson, because I asked him, why do I see boys going to school wearing pretty much whatever, you know, whatever pants, whatever shirt, t-shirt, and the answer was a punch in the face. I normally ask too many questions, so I asked him, why do you punch me? He looked me in the eye and said, you will never question a law. And that was my first Islamic lesson. Don't ever question a law. Then I got to school, and they lined us up in the yard, and before we even know who the dean of the school is or which class we're going for anything, dean went up, grabbed the microphone and said, repeat after me. Forgive me as I'm just a messenger. And she started saying, death to America. Very first thing I ever learned at school. And right after that was death to Israel. And if you wouldn't repeat, you would get 3 days suspension from school. And then if you would not repeat for the second time, you would be banned from school. So that was the first thing they taught us at school. Anyhow, fast forward to when I was 9 years old, I got an invitation from a school for what was known as requirement day. And they told me to learn my prayer in Arabic. I will say this, just so you know, if anybody has a question. And that was the first time in my life at age 9 that the first red flag went up in my head about this Allah guy. Because he speaks Arabic and he expects me as his creation to be bilingual. Something just wrong with her. But well, I had to do it. So I learned my prayer, then I learned the call to prayer, because as a Muslim you always need to know the call to prayer, so you can always call other Muslims to prayer. And then after that they put me in my very, very special gown for the celebration day. And my father, very proud, got ready to go to the event. Yes, that's again me. I'm sure you can just see a little tiny face there, but that's me. Yeah, they put me in this burqa, color white, because it is a ceremony. We're celebrating. I didn't still know what I'm celebrating. But we went to the event, a room filled with 9-year-old girls. And a mom came on the stage and started talking. Cited Quran, talked about Muhammad the Prophet, and how everything about Islam is like awesome and loving and caring and peachy. Right after that it said, well, under Sharia, all of you girls in this room are officially an adult woman. So much love, I couldn't handle it. He went on by saying, as an adult woman, you are responsible for your actions. You will face consequences. You will obey Sharia, you will follow Muhammad, and you will die or kill in the name of Allah. Also, if your male guardian decides it's time for you to get married, you will do so. And your husband can consummate the marriage because you're 9. And just to make sure we understood what they were telling us, you see that thing I'm holding in my hand? They actually gave me a certification. A government issued certification that on that date, I was announced a woman. Anyways, now, this was long time ago. Very long time ago. My math isn't helping me right now. I'm 34, I was 9, so that's like what, 25 years ago. That's a long time ago. Just to make sure you know that this wasn't just one time that happened when I turned 9. This picture was taken back in 2017, Islamic Republic of Iran school. All those girls, you see how they're wearing the same thing I was? They all turned into adult women on their 9th birthday, 2017. And you can confirm this, go on Google, 2017, Islamic Republic of Iran requirement day, pictures will come up. Different colors, different schools, but they all look the same. And that imam in front of them is the one who broke the news to them. Ours would obviously look different. Anyways, now there is an accusation going on that I made this up, and they're not 9, and I wasn't 9. Apparently we were all 18, but we have baby faces. So here's what I want you to read. The Civil Code of Islamic Republic of Iran, Book 10, Chapter 1, says the age of maturity for boys, 14, for girls, 9. You all see that, right? Again, you can confirm this. Look up Civil Code of Islamic Republic of Iran, and you'll see. It's the law. I did not make this up. Now the question is, why? Why 9? I mean, it could be 8, it could be 7, right? Well, the 9 came along when Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, had one favorite wife out of 11 he had. Yes, he had 11 wives at the same time. His favorite one was Aisha. Anybody familiar with Aisha? Don't be shy. Okay. Aisha was a 6-year-old girl he married. She was 9 years old when he consummated the marriage. And again, this is not some story I made up. If you look up Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 7, Book 62, Hadith 2, it's Hadith 64, sorry. It narrated by Aisha herself saying she was 6 years old when Muhammad married her, and she was 9 when he consummated the marriage. Islamic books, not my story. And the Hadith repeated itself 2 more times, that she kept saying that I was 6 when he married me, and I was 9 when he consummated the marriage. Now, there's another thing I'm sure you all heard. Our lovely moderate Muslims will tell you that Islam was hijacked by a bunch of radicals. who are accidentally running all the Islamic countries. And nobody's fighting them, you know. None of the moderate Muslims are fighting ISIS, and none of them are fighting Islamic Republic of Iran or any other Islamic country. But point is, the Islamic Republic of Iran says when you're 9, they can marry you. They can marry you off. As a girl, you become a woman. But technically, even the law says under 9, you cannot marry your daughter, you know. And age 9 is the majority age. But if you go back to the root of Islam, in Quran, on chapter 4, verse 3, there is actually no minimum age. None. So I would say they're not radical. They actually smoothed it out a little bit. They gave 9 years to the girl before she started getting raped. I guess that's my proof here that Islam was not hijacked by a bunch of radicals. It was actually probably hijacked by a bunch of moderates. We said, okay, instead of being an infant, let's move it up to 9. And also on this verse, it does mention that a Muslim man has the right to have 4 wives. You can all read it, right? Or you want me to read it for you? You got it. Now, on this verse, it mentions orphan girls. If you can't do justly with orphan girl, marry other women of your standard, 2 or 3 or 4. Apparently, Yursa, who was Aisha's nephew, he got a little confused on that and went and asked Aisha, what does Allah mean on chapter 4, verse 3? Aisha told him, chapter 4, verse 3 was revealed regarding a guardian who might be attracted to an orphan girl that he is a guardian of and wants to marry her. If he's willing to pay the fair marriage money, he can marry her. I have cited this hadith God knows how many times, and swear to God to this point, I cannot decide which one is worse. The fact that it's okay for a guardian to be attracted to an orphan girl, or the fact that money is the only issue here. If you don't pay enough, you don't get her. I mean, come on, isn't that sexist slavery? But I guess me turning into an adult woman at age 9 had nothing to do with Islam. Moving on, excuse me. Considering that I turned into an adult woman at age 9, and I was responsible for my own actions, and I had to face consequences, until I reached age 14, I ended up turning into a bad criminal. I mean, oh boy, I got arrested, put in prison 12 times. I earned myself over 100 lashes. I lost count on how many times I was raped. Let's not go there. But one of the times that I got arrested was when I was sitting in the front seat as a passenger of a cab. When I got in a taxi, the back seat was full, so I sat in front. The back passengers got off. I didn't bother to go sit back. So we got pulled over by morality police, also known as Sharia police. And every time in Islamic countries when you're pulled over or stopped by Sharia police, the first question, what's the relationship between man and woman? And again, I'm a teenager, but I'm considered a woman. So the police asked, and I said, I'm just a passenger. And the driver said, no, we're having a relation. They took us in, detention center, go to court in the morning. We walked in and I repeated my statement that I was just a passenger. And the judge said, well, he said you're not. You said you are. Can you bring someone else to confirm your story? I'm like, well, no, I'm sorry, we were alone in the car. He said, well, technically I have to take his word over yours because your testimony counts as half of his. You're sentenced to 75 lashes. And by the way, I was the only one who was sentenced, you know. My grandmother managed to purchase 50 of them and I served 25 of them. But the first thing that comes to your mind is, how could a judge do that? Right? It's like, it's just not fair. Here's why the judge did that. Quran, chapter 4, verse 11. He did it because Allah said, your boy is worth twice of your daughter. And with that, your daughter is worth half of your son. Therefore, a woman is considered half of a man under Sharia. Anyhow, By the time I reached 14, close to my 14, as I said, I was a criminal, so my father could not take it anymore. He decided it's time for me to become somebody else's problem. And one day he told me I'm going to marry that guy. So, and I guess funny enough, when I tried to convince him not to do it and he failed, I just went with, why? Why are you doing this? And he reopened the Quran and showed me chapter 4 verse 3 again. Said he's paying that for money, so I'm giving you to him. Which, just in case if you're curious, my worth to my father was $50 American and opium for 1 month of personal usage. Anyways, the man who bought me for my father kind of sort of got, I think he was a little confused, so he kept looking at me as a punching bag. And obviously I was his wife, so the whole process of my life with him was, if he wasn't raping me, he was beating me. If he wasn't beating me, he was raping me. And in all fairness, sometimes he managed to do both. So one day I decided to go to court and try to get myself a divorce. So I walked in one day after he was done beating me into the court. And the way I walked into the court, even though I had my full burqa and hijab on, but I walked in with a dislocated shoulder, bloody lip, bruised face, pretty beat up. And I told the judge, Your Honor, I really need you to give me a divorce because this man's going to kill me at some point. And he very calmly, with a smile, looked up and said, well, young lady, maybe you should start obeying your husband so he doesn't have to beat you. Now go home and make him happy. Again, a judge. And please remember, I'm like 15 years old at this point, not this. I mean, it still is not okay to beat the crap out of this, but it's really bad when you're 15. Again, a judge looking at a teenager and telling her that it's not something any of us in here are going to accept. But it is accepted in Islamic countries, thanks to chapter 4, verse 34. If you think your wife is going to disobey you, warn her, separate your bed, then beat her until she starts obeying you. So automatically, because I wasn't obeying him, he had the right to beat me, and the judge told me to go back and obey him. But again, I guess that had nothing to do with Islam. Moving on, Terror National put out a piece on me a few days ago saying that I am smearing the religion of peace because I made a statement saying rape is part of Islam. So I would like to defend myself. Have you noticed chapter 4 is my favorite? Chapter 4 verse 15 says, those who commit unlawful sexual intercourse of your woman, bring upon them 4 witnesses, and if it's confirmed they committed adultery, then lock the woman, guilty woman, in the house until death takes her. First of all, I'm pretty sure it takes 2 to tango. But the woman is the one at fault. So kill the woman. Now, as a woman under Islam, if you go to court and say I was raped, you need to bring 4 witnesses. Trust me, it's very hard to do that. Most of rapists don't leave witnesses behind. And if you don't, you just admitted to adultery. And based on that, as a guilty woman, you will be stoned to death. So you want to report a rape, you better make sure you have 4 witnesses. If not, okay, technically 4 male witnesses. If they're women, you need 8 of them.
Wow.
So, with that, Dear Care National, rape is part of Islam. Moving on is the whole hijab matter. The issue of hijab in Islam. Have you actually heard, are you familiar with Tunisia Islam? Have you heard her saying hijab is mandatory, is a choice? Because I actually asked, she's not talking to me, but I did send a message today. How do you claim to be a Muslim when you don't even wear the hijab? Here's the thing. If you open Quran on chapter 24, verse 31, it says to tell the believing woman to lower their headscarf down to their chest. Remember the first picture of me, first day of school? You see how the white hijab was down to my chest? That's a proper hijab, coming from Quran itself, chapter 24, verse 31. The Arabic word used, Google the Arabic word, means headscarf, what you wrap around your head. So even Linda Sarsour's hijab is not a proper hijab because she's showing her neck. She does it all fancy. The proper hijab under Islam, based on Quran, is the one that you wrap your entire head, your neck, down to your chest. Now, I would agree, yes, hijab is a choice under Islam. And here's a confirmation for it. Chapter 33, verse 59. Tell the believing woman to wear their hijab, to cover themselves up, so they be known and not be abused. Here are your choices. Wear the hijab, not be abused. Don't wear the hijab, be raped. So technically there's a choice. It's just between bad and worse, I guess. Now, as I said, most of my stories are 20-something years old. So let's come to 2018. I'm going to share some news that you've never heard anywhere because they're not important. Because Linda Sarsour in Tunisia and Kara are so worried about Muslim community, right? You're looking at Shaparak. March 2018, she was arrested for removing her hijab in Islamic Republic of Iran, standing strong and saying, I'm not wearing this thing anymore. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. I'm pretty sure none of those very worried about Muslim community talked about it. She had to escape. She had to leave her motherland and become a refugee in the middle of God knows where, so she didn't have to serve 20 years of prison time. 2018, March, recent. Maade one day decided to dance, nothing bad, okay, just a traditional Persian dance, in her room, videotape it and put it on her private Instagram and YouTube channel. She was arrested for that, sentenced to 2 years prison and 80 lashes. Oh. Her crime was to, I guess, be happy and dance. Right? And then we have Maryam, who was sentenced to 3 years in prison, and she was banned from exiting the country for 2 years. Her crime? Well, technically she was a human rights activist. She was reporting on those who are suffering. She reported on Maade being arrested for dancing. That was her crime. She was labeled as a spy because she was reporting from inside Iran outside to Western countries of what is going on with women in Iran. Well, she never made it to serve her sentence because her burned body was found in the middle of nowhere. All she did was be brave, strong, and stand up and be a voice for those who didn't have a voice. Her name is Somaya. She was married to an abusive man and wanted to get a divorce. I'm sure we established getting a divorce in Islamic countries, good luck. She told her husband she's going to go and fight for a divorce, and he said, if you try that, I won't let you leave. So one day when she was taking a nap, laying down and taking a nap, her husband decided to go ahead and burn her with acid. Viewer discretion advised. If you can, please continue watching. But if not, I understand. There was one little tiny problem. She was taking a nap with her 4-year-old daughter. Rana, the daughter, is the youngest victim of acid attack by her own father. When in interrogation they asked him, why didn't you remove the baby? His answer was, what was the point? She would grow up to be just like her mom. Unfortunately, Somaya, the mother, didn't survive. She died of complications. But Rana did. And if it's any consolation, my organization and another organization was able to raise enough money for her to be transferred to Europe and receive all surgeries she needs to get her face back. everything I told you, including my story, took place over there. Miles away, thousands miles away. And I know all of you feel their pain, my pain. But sometimes it could be possible for us to say, I will pray for them, but there's nothing I can do. They're like too far away. So let's talk about America, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. You brought up interfaith. And I'm sure Sharon is going to do this perfectly, covered, awesome. But I'll do what I can. So interfaith dialogue is, as Pastor Scott mentioned, is the whole point that we can coexist. Muslims, Christians, Jews can coexist. But I say we can't. And I say interfaith is nothing but a lie. And anyone who gives into it on a non-Muslim side is either completely blind or completely uneducated. Either way, they need to wake up and get educated. Because here's the thing. Let's just start by the first problem. Pastor Scott, is there such a thing to kill someone if they leave Christianity?
Not at all.
Thank you. And under our Constitution also, we have the freedom of religion, right? Let's go to my favorite chapter. Chapter 4, verse 89 says, if they turn their back to Islam, kill them wherever you find them. How do we coexist with this? How? How do we cooperate and coexist with people who believe I should be killed because I turned my back to Islam? I'm a live example of this verse. From the regime of Iran to imams inside America, I have bounties on my head solely because I've left Islam. For being an ex-Muslim, I should be killed. Now, to confirm even more, the lovely, peaceful, women's rights activist, loving prophet, Sahih al-Bukhari, book 83, Hadith 37 says, Prophet only killed 3 types of people. Only 3. That's not bad, right? And the third category was those who turned their back to Islam. So Muhammad himself killed ex-Muslims. And again, 2 more hadith. Book 52, book 84 says, Prophet said, if somebody, a Muslim, discard his religion, kill him. That's pretty clear, isn't it? How are we doing this in our faith again? So we're basically walking Christians into a slaughterhouse, right? Now it gets worse. Because a lot of pastors will tell you they're doing the interfaith because in Islam, Christians are considered the people of the book, so they're safe, right? Let's go over that. There is a chapter in Quran, chapter 19. Before I get there, by the way, if you didn't know, when you open the Quran, the order you read the chapters are not the proper order they were revealed to Muhammad. And the newest chapters started to overwrite the older chapters. Okay? Keep that in mind as we go through this. Chapter 19 in reality was the 44th chapter that was revealed to Muhammad. And it's called Mary. However, 3 chapters, including my favorite chapter, were revealed to Muhammad after 19. If you talk to imams or Muslims, they will refer to chapter 19. So keep your eyes open for it. Oh, on chapter 19, it says this and that about Jesus. Yes, it did. But that was before Muhammad moved to Medina and went from a prophet to a killer. So let's review what was said with more or newer chapters about Christianity and Jesus. Chapter 3, verse 59, it was the 89th chapter, so automatically overrides chapter 44th chapter, right? It says, indeed the example of Jesus to Allah is like that of Adam. He created him from dust. I'm no expert, you are. Would you like to say a word or two about this? Is this what we believe?
Not at all.
Thank you. Oh, it gets better. Okay, my favorite chapter. Verse 171. By the way, my favorite chapter, chapter 4, was the 92nd chapter revealed to Muhammad at 114. So this is kind of sort of the last approved verses. Anyways, on this one, says, the Messiah, being Jesus, the son of Mary, was but a messenger of Allah. That is not the Jesus I know. Thank you. And he goes on to say, so, believe in Allah and His messengers and do not say 3. Can we do that? No, we can't. So, do we believe in the same Jesus as Muslims? Okay, chapter 3, verse 52. Sorry, I have a mistype there, but it says, when Jesus felt persistent in disbelief from them being people who were not following Jesus, he said, who are my supporters for the cause of Allah? They said, we are supporters for Allah. We have believed in Allah and testified that we are Muslims submitting to Jesus. Tell me Christianity of Islamic version is the same as the Christianity we believe in this room. Now let's see what Muhammad had to say about it. Book 43, Hadith 656 says, Allah's Prophet said, the hour will not be established until the Son of Mary, Jesus, descend amongst you as a just ruler. He will break the cross, kill the pigs, and abolish the jizya tax. Yeah, inner faith exists. Again, I'm pretty new myself. I was very recently saved. But even with that, I know that does not fit reality. But unfortunately, we have pastors who are willing to say it does. So based on that, what we all believe in this room makes us infidels. It makes us non-believers. And under Islam, as we read, our punishment is death. Now, let's kind of come out of the inner faith part. As I said, I'm sure Sharon is going to cover this in much detail. But, not working. Oh. Okay. Let's talk about women under Sharia in America. As I said, most of the things I told you about women was pretty much in the Middle East. But they did a research in America commissioned by the U.S. Department of Justice, and they said there are actually 4 types of honor violence taking place in America. And that is forced marriage, honor-based domestic violence, honor killing, and female genital mutilation. Based on that report, it says 23 to 27 honor killings per year are taking place in America. Please do tell me Sharia isn't here. Are you familiar with them? Saeed sisters. Their father shot them in the back of his car because they were dating non-Muslim boys and they were becoming too westernized. Here in America, 2008, Texas. So many more. Don't think these are the only victims. There are more if you do the homework and search for them. 2009. She was killed by her husband. Her crime? She wasn't Muslim enough. She was not Muslim enough. She was too much of an American. She was becoming westernized. So she deserved to die. Familiar with her? She performed female genital mutilation here in America. Not my report. Based on the report, they said average age was between 6 and 8. 6 and 8-year-old girls were mutilated here in America. I'm sorry to break it to you, but problem of Islam isn't just in the Middle East. It isn't just in Europe. It is right here in America. Again, viewer discretion if you want to look away. 500,000 women and girls in the United States have undergone the procedure or are at risk of female genital mutilation. 500,000 American women and girls are either already mutilated or at risk to be mutilated. Are we all going to just sit here and say it has nothing to do with Islam? Or are we going to actually get educated enough, do enough research, so we can stand up and fight for our freedom and stop our enemy? In any aspect you look at it, Islam is our enemy. As Christians, as Americans, as human, Islam is our enemy. And the only way you can fight your enemy is to know your enemy. The only way you know your enemy of Islam is to get educated. As painful as it is, start reading Quran. Chapter 4, 5, and 9 will give you more than enough education to know what you are facing. Because every time you try to every time I try to speak out with all these verses, all these examples, what I hear is, I'm Islamophobe, I'm racist, I'm a bigot, I'm a hate speaker. I'm okay with that. You know why? Because I'd rather be all of that, but when I go to bed, I know I did something to stop the next little girl to be either raped, mutilated, or turned into sex slave. That is what we need to do. This is how we love. We love those innocent people who are suffering under hands of Sharia. The prosecution of Christians are continuously going on in the Middle East. And we have pastors here who have the nerve to sit down with the moms and have a cup of tea. While fellow Christians are being slaughtered in the Middle East. And soon enough, they're going to come for us. If what I'm saying is spreading fear, I'm just a messenger. I'm just citing their own Quran, their own Hadith, and their own prophet. So I really hope you grab this feeling, if it's anger, if it's fear, whatever it is, hold on to it and let it drive you to fight for your freedom. My grandmother was involved when the revolution in Islamic Republic of Iran took place. As she said herself, she didn't do anything to stop it. She kept thinking they're going to get tired and go home. I was the one who paid the price, her granddaughter. So what I'm trying to say, if you don't do it for yourself, remember, your daughters and your granddaughters are going to pay the price. With that being said, God bless you and God bless America.